A single dad took a night shift no one wanted. By morning, the billionaire was at his door. The knock came at dawn, not loud, not polite, measured. I was already awake. I hadn't slept. My son breathed in the next room, small, steady sounds that kept me anchored while the rest of the world tilted. I stood in the kitchen with a mug I hadn't touched, watching steam dissolve into nothing. Another knock. I didn't move. My phone buzzed on the counter. No name, just a message. He's here. I hadn't given anyone my address. The third knock landed with intention. Whoever stood on the other side knew exactly how much force to use. Enough to be heard, not enough to beg. I checked the clock. 6:07 a.m. Too early for deliveries, too precise for coincidence. When I opened the door, the man on my porch didn't step back. He didn't introduce himself. He looked past me, into my apartment, as if measuring the cost of everything I owned. Behind him, a black sedan idled, engine quiet, expensive. "You work the night shift," he said. It wasn't a question. I felt it then, the tightening behind my ribs, the old instinct, the one that had kept me alive since my wife died and everyone else decided I was disposable. "Yes," I said. He nodded once. "Good," he replied. "We need to talk." That was when I recognized him, the billionaire who owned the building I'd just cleaned, the one no one ever saw, the one people whispered about like a warning. I stepped aside and let him in. The night shift wasn't supposed to matter. It was a temporary thing. Graveyard hours, cleaning an empty corporate annex no one wanted to touch because of the rumors, cameras that didn't blink, floors that felt watched. I took it because my son needed shoes, because the bills didn't care about grief, because desperation doesn't negotiate. The supervisor who hired me smiled too much. He'd asked no questions, just handed me a badge that didn't work on half the doors. "Don't go into the West Wing," he said. "Casual, too casual." That should have been the warning. I'd noticed things that night. Files left open on screens that should have been locked, a private office with no nameplate and too many cameras aimed inward, and a woman's voice on the phone at 2:14 a.m., low, controlled, familiar in a way that scraped my memory raw. She said my name. I froze. The line went dead. I told myself it was exhaustion, hallucination. Grief does that. It manufactures ghosts to keep you company. But when I checked the call logs on the desk phone, the last outgoing number matched one I knew too well, my late wife's. That number had been disconnected for 2 years, or so I'd been told. I finished the shift with my jaw clenched and my thoughts marching in strict formation. I didn't confront anyone, didn't ask questions. I went home. I bathed my son. I read him a story. And when he slept, I sat in the dark and let the truth seep in. Someone had been lying to me for a long time. I didn't panic. Panic is for people without leverage. I started quietly, methodically. Phone records first, then building schematics I memorized while mopping floors no one cared about. I photographed screens with my eyes, not my phone. Old habits. The West Wing wasn't restricted because it was dangerous. It was restricted because it was private. A shell company owned the annex. Another shell owned the shell. At the center was one name, buried, insulated, untouchable, the billionaire. And linked to him, through a trail of payments masked as consulting fees, was a trust fund I recognized, my wife's maiden name. I found medical records under an alias, prenatal visits dated months after her supposed death, no hospital listed, just a private physician on retainer. I watched security footage from angles the cameras didn't expect me to use. I learned their blind spots, counted seconds between sweeps. At 3:11 a.m., a woman entered the West Wing, hair darker than I remembered, posture unchanged, the same careful economy of movement. She was alive, and she was working for him, or with him, or for herself. Every night after my shift, I kissed my son's forehead and promised him silently that I wouldn't let this break us, that whatever game had been played, I would finish it. I waited. I let the billionaire come to me. He sat at my kitchen table like it belonged to him. "I assume you have questions," he said. I slid a folder across the table, not shaking, never shaking. Inside were copies, dates, names, accounts. He didn't open it. He smiled. "She's very good," he said. "Your wife was." My throat tightened. I didn't let it show. She needed a way out. Continued, a new life, and I needed someone with her skills. It was mutually beneficial. "You let me believe she was dead," I said. "She let you," he corrected gently. "I merely paid the bills." Silence stretched. Then I asked the only question that mattered. "Why now?" His eyes flicked toward the bedroom. "Because she wants your son." The words hit harder than any fist. "She built this contingency," he went on. "If anything happened to her, he'd come to me. Bloodlines matter." I stood. "You don't own him," I said. "No," the billionaire agreed, "but she thought she did." I smiled then. That's when he realized he'd miscalculated. I handed him another folder, thinner. He opened this one, DNA results, financial crimes, internal memos tying him directly to illegal surveillance and identity manipulation. "I copied everything," I said. "The night shift gave me time." His face drained of color. "You came here to threaten me," I continued, "but I already told the authorities where to look, where she hid, what you paid for." "You wouldn't," he whispered. "I already did." The knock at the door came again. This time, it wasn't him. I stepped back, watched control slip from his hands. Later, after the apartment was quiet again, I sat on my son's bed and watched him sleep. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clean. Some betrayals don't deserve tears. They deserve exposure. My wife chose power over us. The billionaire chose to underestimate a man with nothing left to lose. They both paid. I turned off the light, and for the first time in years, I slept. Because whatever they'd tried to take from me, they failed, and they never saw me coming.